Welcome everybody to the last session for today about the use of digital integrated reports. My name is Stéphanie. I'm an assistant professor at WU Vienna. My main research areas are in accounting and here in the area of financial and non-financial reporting. Today I will present a paper that I have collaborated with Eloy about how online integrated reports are used in practice. We have heard a lot today about user journeys, how, for example, Adidas and Clarion set up their reports and what user surveys they had. But all those examples, they're very narrowed to one single firm. So what we try to do within our setting is to aggregate user information into what do users access and what are they looking for. So we investigate 5 online integrated reports together with Nexar, who provided those reports and also designed them. And here we use this potential that only online integrated reports provide us, because an old school report that was sent out by mail lands at the very user, and she or he does whatever he or she wants with the report. We have online reports, so we have the possibility to track visits and overall reach. Also, you have seen it today as well with Adidas, there is a possibility to look into page views. How do users investigate pages and chapters? What are the main chapters users access? And what are their journeys? Also, the possibility exists to go into how did users access the report? Is it, for example, search engines? Is it through the website of the company? And we saw it today as well with those peaks on publication dates. When are those reports really used? Because they are published at the beginning of a financial year on a website. But then what happens about its usage? The idea would be for a company and for your companies that you want users to access them ideally regularly so that they're not on your website for 1 year and nobody looks at it anymore. So we also can investigate the usage during the year and what correlates with this usage. Also an interesting question, we've talked about it this morning as well, from people now looking at reports on their mobile devices, for example. Can we confirm that most users look at mobile devices? And then what actions do users perform? Do they download a PDF, or do most of the users do those journeys on the interactive reports? Also from an academic side, there is an important motivation, because it is clear that capital market research confirms that corporate reports are important for decision making. And the publication of reports and financial numbers impacts firm value, impacts share price, cost of capital, liquidity. But this is done on a high aggregated level. We have the hypothesis basically that reports influence investors, shareholders, and their behavior. But no research, because obviously we could not investigate what does a user do with like paperback pages. What do individual users look at? What do they read? What are their patterns? So although we confirm that these reports are relevant for capital markets and users, we do not exactly know out of those between 300 and 500 pages, which ones are relevant. So the motivation is to understand what content do users access. Just think about your own report. What do you think are the main pages users access? Is it your sustainability? Is it the statement of the CEO? And then what are the main topics of interest? And what is the split between financial and non-financial content in usage? I mean, we have seen a lot going on also on the regulation level, the European Union with the CSR directive promoting non-financial reporting for public interest entities. And now there is some movement towards broadening the companies who need to provide not more non-financial reporting. So it is an interesting question to evaluate if this non-financial reporting is accessed by users. So what research did we perform? Our main research question was, which content of integrated reports do users actively assess? In order to do so, together with Nexa, luckily, we had 5 integrated reports available, 5 listed companies from the chemical and pharmaceutical industry. Those 5 reports had 1,760 pages, single pages that we investigated. You can imagine this is quite a long Excel sheet, and for every of those pages, we had the number of visits amounting to more than 1 million page impressions. So what we did is we analyzed this 1 million page impressions together with research assistants with whom we performed a traditional content analysis, but on pretty new and real life data. The year we covered was the year 2016. So the research phase was after the publication, between spring 2017 to spring 2018. All these reports reached 350,000 visits approximately, and as I already said, over 1 million page views. What we then did by hand is all those page views were collected and attributed to topics that we defined upfront, approximately 21 or 20 topics we had. So every single page was attributed to one topic. In the next step, we then also tried to find some aggregated levels that I will show you in the results sections. Furthermore, and what do you do if you access an online and report is to be very fast and quick and efficient. You normally do the control find function and look for certain keywords. So we also have this possibility to not only know what someone was looking at the very beginning, but to know what they are typing into the search window. So we had 16,475 search requests. What do you think? What would you look for? What do you think were the most important search topics? Maybe you can have a few guesses in our, if this is all right, in our question bar. So we will see if you're right. Concerning integrated reports, 4 of our 5 reports refer to the IRC framework. From a technical point of view, here, this is Nexa responsible for that. We collected them with Matimomo, and we had cookieless and anonymous tracking. And this is why, in contrast to Adidas and Clarion, we don't know any characteristics about our users. And this is something very important, which we would like to change with you. I'm going to talk about it a little later. But now we go and look into the results of our 1 million page visits concerning, first of all, the topics. What are the main topics stakeholders access? Maybe some of you may have guessed. First of all, in a percentage of the total visits, we categorized for every page or for most of the pages a main topic and a secondary topic. Because as you know, for example, look at the income statement. The income statement has as a first category financial statement and as a second one income statement in order to be able to create meaningful clusters and topics. Number 1 is performance, followed by segment performance. So obviously what interests stakeholders is how did the company perform within the last financial year. And then they look into financial notes where they find supplementary information about financial statements, followed by financial statements in general. And then, interestingly, looking at the components of financial statements, the number one statement is the income statement with a score of 4.4. The same score is for general accounting information. However, as you see, this cluster between 4 and our top number, 12.8%, is definitely targeted, all of you, I hope, are going to agree, towards financial information and the performance of a company. Next, we ranged them, we categorized here 3 to 4%, is with 3.8 the topic of sustainability. After that, the company profile, corporate governance, and value creation. A very important, we have seen this with Clarion before, a very important component of integrated reporting, the concept of the capitals and how they create value. So what we see that among the top 10 topics, we have this value creation. Confirming the importance and the value add in this context of integrated reporting. With 3% of access, we then have the balance sheet. So first is the income statement, second is the balance sheet. The last cluster we defined is between 2 and 3%. You see on the very right side of the screen, flying away, future and outlook. Maybe will get even more important in the next annual reports. This was only 2016. 2.7% of excess was on future and on pages related to future and outlook. Then we have employees, the business model, investor relations, also non-financial performance on the left-hand side of the screen, risks, and storytelling. Concerning other topics, we have put them here around the topics that have more than 2%. You find, interestingly, when I compare with what I saw with Adidas before, the CEO statement. With Adidas, I think it was among the top five pages. Here, compared to the other pages, it's less than 1%. Then we also have taxes, changes in equity, human rights, leadership, investments, and interestingly also the topic of regional performance that is less important in the context of our research than segment performance. So looking at this analysis by site and by page and topic, this is the most granular level where we see that users access a lot. Performance pages is the number one, and that the first ranked pages are linked to financial information. We then go one step further and cluster these topics we have attributed to sites in a topic cluster analysis. Here we put a few examples. The first one we aggregated under financial performance, subsumes performance, segment performance, financial notes, statements, income statement, balance sheet, all this financial information. Then we created a cluster about sustainability, where you find a lot of non-financial information concerning the GRI index, sustainability, employees, safety, the supply chain. Another cluster, an important topic for firms, is leadership, where we put together all sides concerning remuneration, corporate governance, leadership, the CEO statement, and information about the supervisory board. Finally, we have a group about strategy, where we subsume this value creation that is essential for the integrated reporting concept, strategy, and the business model. And this is the first aggregate big picture that we have. And here our results show that from the topic analysis, if you remember right, number one is financial performance, not surprisingly, with 42.2%. But important is that on the second place is already the topic of sustainability. So users access information about sustainability second after financial performance. And after that, 10% on leadership and management. Next comes strategy, and information about the shares and the company. We find outlook and the reporting scope, risks after that. But the main focus of user access is, after financial performance, is sustainability, leadership, strategy, and the company and information about shares. So you may ask yourself, yeah, but what is then the cluster between financial and non-financial information? This is the most aggregate level, and basically the level we are having most of the discussions about in a political environment at the moment and in a regulation environment, because after the introduction of mandatory non-financial reporting, the question arose that why should companies report non-financial information? And it is, I mean, this is no doubt, to provide information is always costly for firms. So the question is to see it from a user perspective, because if users look at the information and access the information actively, shows that they are interested in it and that they need it. And our results show that users, when looking at the aggregate picture, are as interested in financial as in non-financial information. We have 52.6% for financial versus 47.4% for non-financial information. So it is a myth that only financial information matters. Users do access non-financial information, and it matters for stakeholders accessing annual reports, and especially integrated reports that we analyzed within our study. Second, we analyzed those search requests. I don't know what you have guessed and if you are right, but the result is that the main search queries, the main words users entered to search for are related to people. They are related to management and employees. After that comes, which is pretty close to the performance, sales. So users, from a financial performance aspect, if they search for something, most of the time they search for sales. 234 search requests were found for sales, and 220 for sustainability, so pretty close to the first financial performance. The next cluster in the area of search requests are those where we have about 100 hits or 100 requests. We have the word financial, the word value, risks, share, and product. So the capital market side with share, value, financial, the financial performance again. Also, the impact of the risks on a company. Today we've seen the materiality perspective, so users are interested in what risks are there for a company, or where do you find anything about risks, and which goes maybe hand in hand with what Adidas showed, that they had a lot of consumers using the report as well, the word product. So although a corporate report may have a lot of financial information, users do look for information regarding products. Here a big picture, a word cloud. Depending on what is interesting to you, I guess you may see certain words. Here you have an overview of the most important words. We didn't have remuneration before because it was a bit less than 100. The word subsidiary, suppliers, capital, cash are still looked for as well, but less than 100 times. Overall, we had 16,475 search requests. So summing up, only financial information matters is a myth. Users' interests are manifold, and the reality of usage we see in our sample supports the idea of integrated reporting, namely that users access financial and non-financial information, and that this concept of value creation is being taken and used by users who access online reports. But as already said, there's more to discover. And what I showed you is what users looked at in general. But we do not know anything about the users. And this is one of the most important parts that is missing for this puzzle of we have a firm, the user, and the usage. So we know already a lot about the usage, but the next step is to look into the users in order to maybe adapt reporting also according to different needs. So we want to perform a stakeholder survey looking into who is visiting your report and why. You have seen it this morning with Adidas. There is a little window popping up where you're asked what user group you are and why you visit the report. And in this context, we would need you to help us to explore the stakeholders beyond your reports. I've put my email address here on the screen so that you can register for such a survey so that we can incorporate such a window on your reports, and would be very, very glad about your help. Obviously, you would get all the statistics and all the results, and it would be great if you could work with us on this study in order to see which stakeholder groups are using the report, why do they access your report, what are they searching for, and then an important question that is, I think, not asked enough is, did they find the information they were looking for? Just think about yourself. So often, and if it's not an annual report, it's just a website where you go in order to find an information. And after maybe 5 to 10 minutes, or even earlier, you're quite frustrated because you haven't found what you want. So in this context, we want to optimize also reporting in order to provide answers on those questions, knowing that the information that is accessed by users is both financial and non-financial information. Thank you very much for your attention. We will have a speaker's corner right now. And from what I understood, I will respond to your questions. I'm looking forward to within the first minutes of the speaker's corner. And otherwise, if you have any questions or if you want to participate, we're more than happy if you register. Thank you very much.